Hello, my pretties. Today is April 1st. It's April Fool's Day 2012, and this is not an April Fool's joke. Today is actually my 6th anniversary. It's been 6 years now since I last worked the very last day of the last job working for somebody else that I've ever had before in my life. 6 years has passed since I worked the last day of my last job. That's incredible. So today is a celebration of that for me. I mean, wow. I think the bigger celebration is the day that I actually declared my financial independence. But I have to say, I don't think I would have declared my financial independence if I had not had that event a few years prior, where I didn't have my job anymore. So this is a perfect segue to go into my story again. I love telling my story because it inspires people, and I love watching people get inspired to actually take action and change their lives. Now, most people who hear my stories probably don't really take any action, and that's cool. And some people are going to be totally happy with where they're at and keep chugging along, and that's definitely cool. But then there's going to be people who are not happy with where they're at, and they don't make any changes. That's totally not cool. And then there's going to be those people that are uncomfortable in their current scenario, not very happy, who make some changes so they get a different outcome. And that's what I love. And that's why I tell my stories. It's for those people that take something from it and who make some changes and improve their lives for whatever their reasons are. And it doesn't even matter to me if they sign up for this opportunity with me that I'm involved in, or if they sign up for some other opportunity somewhere else. Just as long as this torques your brain and you start studying and acting on opportunity of some kind somewhere in the world to improve your life for yourself and the people around you. That's why I share my story, and that's why I share other stories, and that's why I do just about anything that I do. It's for you. It's for me too. I mean, in the end, it's really for me, because I don't think that I do anything that if it doesn't change how I'm feeling, why would I do it? And that's the same for everybody. All of us, in the end, we're doing something to change an emotion, how we feel. And if watching other people grow and achieve their own dreams is something that changes how you feel and makes you feel good, I think that's pretty darn cool. So here's my story. 6 years ago today, it was April 1st, 2006 was the last day of the last job working for somebody else that I ever had. At the time, I was devastated because I was not involved in anything else yet. And all of my income was tied into that one place. So when that one place sold my job to, the highest bidder, then I suddenly had no income because that was all my income. Health insurance, benefits, they're not really benefits, but that's the fraud they sell them as. Another topic for another day. All of it was gone. And I believed, having that job with those benefits, I believed at that time that was the best thing for me. It really wasn't, but at the time I believed it. So when all those things were wiped out from underneath my feet at no fault of my own, I was completely devastated. Fell into some depression, as you would expect that I would. And I had to depend on my parents, mommy and daddy, once again, just to get by. I mean, it's a great resource to have, but you know what? It's really flippin' embarrassing. 30 years old I was. Well, at the time I was about 28, I think, and eventually 29 and 30, and still depending on my parents just to get by. It was a great asset to have in my parents, but it was really embarrassing. Extremely, utterly embarrassing. It was bad. I hated looking at myself. I wanted to vomit. I mean, put a mirror in front of me, I would have done this. Not good at all. So that was my scenario back in that day. And because I lost my job as a result of bad federal trade policies, the government said that I could go to school and they would pay for it. I qualified for some program where they would pay for me to go to school, so that's what I did. And so I went to school for computer sciences. My heart wasn't really in it. It was just the best thing I could find, I guess, for whatever reason. But it didn't really work out that well. I got my degree. I graduated with an associate's in computer sciences. But when I had 1 year left of college, that's when I signed up for opportunity that would eventually lead me to the great American dream of declaring my own financial independence, my own personal liberty. Oh my God. That was a wonderful thing. So anyway, I had 2 semesters of college left. I was already going to school full time and a half. I was broke. My income was less than bad. It was zero. I mean, you think you got it bad working for $10 an hour or minimum wage or whatever that is right now? Try getting nothing. No income, zilch, and no insurance, no benefits. Unemployment had already run out, and that was after the extension. It was pretty bleak for me. Thank goodness I had my parents, but like I said, the trade-off of having my parents was extreme embarrassment, self-shame, and a feeling of, worthlessness. That's not a good thing. I think I'd honestly rather be homeless and a sense of pride and self-worth than to be, depending on my parents with no feeling of self-worth or pride or anything like that. It was, oh man, I played it off very well back in the day too. I mean, I didn't lead on to anybody of my scenario and how I was feeling about it. And I just didn't want to share how I was feeling with anybody back then. It was too embarrassing, too humiliating. I was completely depressed. It was a really bad time. That was my rock bottom because by nature I want to be independent. And so to be 30 years old independent on your parents, man, for me that just completely flat out sucked, beyond words. So anyway, I've got this new opportunity. Last 2 semesters of college, I signed up for this Beachbody opportunity. Thank goodness somebody shared it with me because most people that are in network marketing or anything entrepreneurial, they would have looked at me and said, not him. They would have made that decision for me. They would have prejudged me and just moved on to somebody else. But I wasn't prejudged by the person who brought me into this, and I am so grateful for that. I truly am. Because I was afforded the right to decide for myself. And you know what? If you ever get an invitation from me, just know this. I invite you because somebody invited me. I didn't prejudge you, and I'm okay if you're not interested in this. If you're interested in it, great. If you're not, great. And I totally believe that this thing can change your life. It can save your life. But I'm going to share this with you no matter who you are, no matter how broke you are, even if you don't have 2 nickels to rub together. I'm going to share this with you because somebody shared it with me and didn't think for me. I don't want to think for you. That's just the way I roll. It's the way I am. And I like the way that I am now. So when I signed up for this college full-time and a half, no income, an income of literally zilch, and I make this crazy investment in this Beachbody opportunity to buy your own business that you could grow into a viable business was only $39.95, and it's still that price. But my total investment, because I wanted to be a product of the product, I bought the Showcase pack. I'm sure that's totally foreign to you if you have no idea what I'm talking about. But anyway, the required investment was $40. So everything that I have now, the house in cash, the income, the passive income, the vacations, I take the trips and all these things that are happening for me, that really only costed me $40. That's pretty awesome that you can do that for only $40. I bought a house in cash. How much did it cost me? $40. I go on trips all the time. I just recently got back from the Caribbean for a week. It was a wonderful place, paradise. How much did it cost me? $40. I get to do anything I want, basically, and I don't have to check in with the boss. I don't have to look at my bank account to make sure I got the funds. How much did all that cost me? $40. Everything costed me $40 as far as I'm concerned. But I also got these products to change my health, and my overall investment was about $240 when I got started, and I didn't have any income whatsoever. So how was I able to do that with zero income and virtually no time to do anything? I did whatever I could to find anybody that was willing to pay me $10 an hour to do whatever job they wanted me to do. It usually ended up to be yard work, like raking leaves or I don't know, whatever. One lady paid me $300 to paint 3 rooms of her house. It took me 3 days to do, but I did it, and that was awesome. By the way, that 3 days I spent was it was either summer or it was in between the 2 semesters from school because I don't think I would have had time. I know I wouldn't have had time to do that while I was going to school. I was going to school full-time and a half, and I had no money. But that's what I did. I just poured myself out there. and did whatever work I could for $10 an hour. I didn't care. I wanted this so badly. I wanted to solve my problem so badly. I was willing to do that. So I did. I was willing to pay the price for the things that I want. And that's the problem with most people. Are not willing to pay the price. So they're going to be broke year after year after year until that changes. It's just the way it is. It's not the government's fault. It's not the economy's fault. It's not your boss's fault. If you're not willing to pay the price for the things that you want, you got to take responsibility for that. Put it on your own shoulders. And then you're empowered to change everything that you want if you're willing to pay that price, period. So a year and a half left. I sign up for this thing. No money, no time. And those are the two big reasons and other variations of those reasons why people don't act on opportunity that they're interested in. It's time or money or a combination of both. And I'm just going to put this out there, point blank, blunt, very honest. If I still thought that way, if I still had the mindset of I can't get started on opportunity because I don't have the money, I can't get started on opportunity because I don't have the time, then I would still be just as broke as all those broke fools who think that way. And it is a foolish way to think. Think about it this way, the parallels of the natural laws of the universe, which you can apply to every area of your life. You cannot reap a harvest until you sow seed first and cultivate. You're not going to get a harvest unless you sow seed. Imagine you're looking out at the soil and you look up to the sky and you're praying to God to give you a harvest because you don't have the money right now, you don't have the time, so you can't do the work to get the harvest. So you're asking for the harvest. Please, God, give me a harvest and I promise I'll sow seed later. The soil is going to look up at you and call you a fool. I mean, who is this clown? You got to sow the seed first. You got to do the work. You got to put out the money. You got to pay the price. You got to put this thing in debt to you and then it'll pay you. And it's not like, depending on the opportunity. I'm not talking about a job because then you get, roughly you get out of it what you put into it. You're trading time for money, and that's just terrible, terrible, terrible advice to trade time for money. But in something where you're owning your own income, if you're involved in, say, your own business, we got a team of people. You're not just a sole proprietor, but you're involved in a team, or you're in a network marketing opportunity like I am, an MLM network marketing opportunity, then you're going to get back a whirlwind of what you put into it. If you plant an ear of corn, you're not going to get an ear of corn back. You're going to get a bushel back or so of corn. So knowing that, you got to be careful of what you sow, because if you're sowing bad seed, you're going to get a whirlwind of that in return. And then what's life going to be like? And if you're sowing good seed and you're ambitious enough about it, you're going to get a whirlwind back in return. And what's life going to be like then? It's going to be pretty damn awesome, I'll tell you that. I can speak from experience on both sides of that fence. So those were the two big reasons, the two big hurdles, I guess, I had at the time that I signed up for this. I had no time because of school, full-time and a half, and other responsibilities I had. I had no money. My income was zero. That couldn't have been any worse. And I signed up anyway, where most people wouldn't. And most people would still be broke year after year after year. And it wouldn't be because of the economy or their boss or politics or anything like that. It's because they've just got a rotten, lousy mindset that belongs in the trash. Call it head trash. And it's called head trash for a reason. It's trash. Just throw it away in the trash, and you could be so much better if you got out of your own way. I got out of my way, thank God. Because, point blank, I'll just say it again. If I thought like most people do, I can't do this or that, I'd like to, I'm interested, but I can't because I don't have the time or the money, I'd still be just as broke today as I was back then, except I'm sure things would be worse because we never really truly stay where we are. Things are going to get better or worse. We're always either growing or dying because time is always moving. And the only possible way that your scenario could stand still is if you got time to pause. And you're not going to get time to pause. Time is going to move whether you like it or not. So since that time is going to pass by anyway, you might as well get off the friggin' sidelines of your own life, quit being a spectator, and get on the playing field. And make sure that your plan, your actions are in alignment with what you want. Because if they're not, then you're just going to be chasing sunsets, running east in the opposite directions. And you'll be working hard, but you won't have anything to show for it but a fruitless exhaustion. So you can't confuse hard work with productivity either. Hard work has to be in alignment with the things that you want. And you'll know because you're going to pay attention to the negative feedback that you get from life in general, from your body if you're trying to get healthy or whatever it is. You're going to get that negative feedback to let you know you got to retweak things and keep retweaking them until you're on that path and your actions are in alignment with the things that you want. That's so incredibly important. There's a lot of busy people that are willing to work hard. I mean, there's nothing more common right now in America than an educated derelict. It's the truth. I went to college for a year and a half, and the last year I went to school, as I've said, I was already involved in this Beachbody opportunity. I had 2 semesters left when I got done, but when I did graduate from school, I wasn't making nearly enough money with this opportunity that I'm involved in yet to declare my financial independence. So at the time when I graduated college, I was still looking for work, or I started looking for work, so I didn't have time going to school. I was so busy. But I put out, I don't know how many applications, tons and tons of them, and I only got 2 interviews out of them because there's like 40, 50, 60 applicants per position. You know what I'm talking about? You probably do. So anyway, the 2 interviews that I got, I was offered $8 an hour at one and $10 an hour at the other. And that was for a job relevant to what I went to school for, what I got my degree for. $8 an hour, $10 an hour for a job that I went to school for? Are you kidding me? Is that a joke? They weren't joking. That was real. That's the economy. That's the job market that we live in. I said no. I'd rather starve. I almost did. Sometimes you just got to starve and be hungry till you get off your ass and do what's necessary to get the things that you want. So a big part of my story, I guess, is I didn't really have much of a flippin' choice. It was either poverty or this, and I wanted this very badly. So I didn't take those jobs, and I just kept chugging along, applying. Eventually I got to one point where I was like, this Beachbody opportunity, this opportunity that I'm involved in, it's really starting to do good now after a couple of years, right? At least 2 solid years. And that first year that I was doing my Beachbody business, you need to know, because I was going to school full time and a half, I only put about 20 minutes to a half hour into it a day. That's it. But because I was consistent with it for the most part, I fell off a couple times, and I'm sure that hurt my business and took longer than it needed to otherwise. But I was pretty consistent with it, and after a year and a half of that, it was enough to get things rolling. So after 2 years, I noticed that my Beachbody, my checks were going up. I was making more money because I was having more significance over more people, helping them live better, healthy, fulfilling lives. And I got to a point where it's like, I'm going to hold off on this job search thing and just focus more on this Beachbody, because this job search thing, it ain't working very well with these pathetic wages that I'm being offered. But my Beachbody income is going up, and it's going up like it's killing the rate of any kind of inflation that we could ever possibly have. So I started focusing more on that. And after 2 years of experience, obviously I was getting better at that, so I was able to really help give this thing a shove and increase its income, the cash flow, the positive cash flow. And that's what I did. It was about, a few months after that, 2.5 years into this deal, is when I officially declared my financial independence. I called off the job search. I fired my boss. I didn't really have a boss, so that's why I put quotes up there when I say I fired my boss. It sounds cool to say I fired my boss, so I still say it just with the quotes. But technically, there was no boss to fire. I fired the job market, the economy, whatever it is that just so depresses so many people because it's so harsh. And that's when I declared my financial independence. That was February of 2010 is when I declared my financial independence. Called off the job search and unleashed myself from the slavery of the economy and the job market and politics and all those other things that we think dictates our lives, but it really doesn't. It's just some really bad head trash that we subscribe to. No, I threw that head trash in the trash where it belongs. That's why they call it head trash. I owned my life. Every bad thing that was happening to me, I began to ask myself different questions. Language is so important. Most people, including myself, I would say, I would say things like, why are these bad things happening to me? If only this or that would change. Politics, my boss was a little bit more generous. If only I didn't, my job wasn't offshore to India for cheap labor. If only the economy were better. Once the economy bounces back, I'm going to really do good. There's a common one right there. If only my boss gave me that raise, then I'm going to be okay. That's all bullshit. Most people buy into it. I bought into it. My life didn't change until I threw that head trash, that terrible belief system, in the wastebasket where it belongs. And I started changing my language. I started asking myself questions like, what am I doing that's attracting all of this negativity towards me? What am I doing that what can I do to become more attractive, an attractive person, so that opportunities would come to me and I wouldn't have to chase them? That sort of stuff. It was all on me. It was all about ownership. My language changed, my belief changed. My language changed because my beliefs started changing. And before you know it, I was attracting all these opportunities. These doors were swinging wide open, and of course I would take advantage because that's what they're there for. And let me give you an example of the validation that I really do know what I'm talking about here. And prior to 2010, my language was terrible because my belief was terrible, and things just weren't happening for me. So there you go. But in 2010, my language changed and my beliefs changed. My language changed because my beliefs changed. I started asking questions like, what am I doing that's attracting all this negativeness? And what can I do to become more valuable to the marketplace, more attractive, so that I attract the opportunity and I can actually move towards my dreams and my goals? And in 2010, that was the year we had the recession. That was the official year when the recession happened. It was said to be the worst recession since the Great Depression. That was the year that my income multiplied by over 700%. I'd never done that well before, ever, in my entire life. And that was the year just about everybody else was losing their asses out because of the recession. Didn't matter if you invested in stocks or you just had a job. Just about everybody was, they were shrinking. But not me. Just about everyone else was shrinking, and I blew up my income by over 700%. How can that be? It's because I stopped waiting for things around me to change. I changed. It was something that started up here. You see, I started subscribing to personal development and self-help material, the stuff that a lot of people just push off as, it's not all that necessary and it's silly and I don't need this, I just need a how-to. That's not true. There's a how-to for everything you can ever possibly imagine. If that's all it took, then everybody would be successful. Our kids would be perfect, and we'd have, everything that we want. But that's not the case. So that's validation proof positive that a how-to is not the answer. I mean, it certainly helps to have a how-to, but that's not really what's going on inside. You need to change your belief system. It doesn't matter if you have a how-to, if you're on the greatest plan that was ever written. If you're not consistent and you don't commit to taking however long it takes till you get to where you want to be, then the how-to doesn't matter. And that's what most people do. They get on the path that's eventually going to take them where they want to be, and on the first hot day, they quit. I see it all the time. And it comes down to a mindset, a lack of personal development. I started reading the books. I started listening to the audio. I attend seminars. I do also. In a nutshell, to summarize all that, I nurture my mind with good words, good nurturing, real words every day, even if it's just a little bit at a time. It adds up. It really does. Everyone has time to spend just a few minutes a day on personal growth and development, and if you don't have the time, then you can't afford not to spend a few minutes on personal growth and development. And to not believe that, even if you don't believe anything else I say, to not believe that is naive, and that's how you stay in a place where you're not very happy year after year after year. It all starts up here, and you got to relentlessly search for the knowledge so that you can make those key discoveries to change whatever it is that you want to change about your life. Otherwise, you're just going to be like all those people who are broke, who stay broke year after year. The only thing, if I can sum up in one thing that differentiates between the people who are broke, who stay broke year after year, and the people who are broke who get rich, the only thing that's different about them, especially in the United States of America, is how they spend their time. How are you spending your time? Are you in a place that you're not very happy? There's a gap that you consciously recognize, whether it be with your health, your body, your relationships, your spirituality, your income, or whatever it is. If there's a gap that you consciously recognize, then you've got to spend some time on personal growth and development. That one thing, personal growth and development, is the turnkey solution for everything in both your personal and professional life. You have to engage in it every day. If you don't, you're just a talking fool. Don't be a talking fool. Engage in develop yourself. That's the turnkey solution for everything. Income, relationships, spirituality, the things that you want that you don't have, those gaps that you recognize between where you are now and where you want to be. You got to develop yourself. That means you got to relentlessly learn. Learning never stops. The moment you stop learning and you think, okay, I've got it now, I don't need to do anymore, that's when you're dead. Life is over. Just forget about it. So don't get to that point. Just keep growing and let life run its course. The good Lord will take you when your time has come. Don't have to worry about that. We don't really have much control over that. But between the time that you're born and the time that you die, you got that little dash in between those two dates. Live up to your full potential or come as close as you can to it. You gotta put the good words into your brain and nurture your brain as well as your body. You're going to nurture your body with what you put into your mouth, and you're going to nurture your brain with words, whether you read them, listen to them, see them, whatever. You got to do both of those things at least a little bit every day. And, if you don't, if you're going to stop growing, then you're dead. There's really nothing else out there for you that's worth anything. You've got to engage in personal development, whatever your goals are, it doesn't matter. And that was, friends, that was it. The personal growth and development, developing yourself, it was more, it had more of an effect for me than the mechanical, logistical how-to steps. That's what changed in 2010. Well, it was actually like the last 2 months of 2009, but those last 2 months of 2009 when I finally got it, 2010 was incredible. Everyone else shrunk. I blew up. It's pretty incredible. And in 2011, I also did very well, extremely well. And 2012, or last year was 2011, I did really well. Now it's 2012. I'm going to do really well again. And it's because I'm not done yet. I'm still reading the books, listening to the audio, nurturing my mind with those awesome words. And I'm also not afraid to draw lines in the sand or expose lines in the sand when I'm talking about just the natural law, the natural setup of the universe. There's lines in the sand that have to be recognized. And I like exposing those lines so that people can see them, so that they can decide which side of that line they want to step on. If you sow a good seed and you're ambitiously sowing that good seed, you're 100% inevitably going to reap a harvest, and it's going to be a whirlwind of what you sowed. Point blank. That's absolutely true. And, in my belief, anybody to believe differently, they're subscribing to an illusion. And I know from experience that when you try to bust somebody's illusion, man, they get very irate. A lot of people do. And there's a few people that when you bust their illusion, they're actually going to suffer some humility and start changing the way that they think. And those are the people that I absolutely love, because that was me. I had to check my biases at the door for the purpose of learning. And, over the course of this journey that I'm on now, I've had to seriously, intensely criticize what I've always believed in and change my beliefs, evolve them. And that saved me. If I would have been so stubborn as to not be open to learning new things and to criticize myself and what I believed in and to suffer some humility, I'd be just as broke as everyone else who just refuses to do that. And I don't want to be that. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be broke mentally. I don't want to be broke spiritually. I don't want to be broke financially. And I don't want to be broke in any other sense of the word. I believe that I have a great purpose here on earth. I don't believe any life was ever just arbitrarily created by our Creator. All of us have a purpose to do something great with our lives. And I think, sadly, that a lot of us waste that potential by, wasting time sitting on the couch, watching TV, playing on Facebook in ways that have nothing to do with our potential and going after the things that we really want that are important to us. But I believe that no life is created arbitrarily, and we all have a great purpose. And I think it's our jobs here on earth to, recognize what that purpose is and go for our potential, or as close as we can to it. And that's a process that just never ends, period. We just need to keep going for it. That doesn't end until the day we die. And then we go home and we can look at our Creator and we can say, I took this life that you gave me, gave it everything I got, and I moved as close as I could to the potential you gave me. And I think that's really how you live a beautiful life, the way that it was intended for you to live. Otherwise, you're cheating yourself. You're cheating the God of your choosing. You're cheating the universe. You're cheating nature. And you're just rotting to death. And I don't recommend doing that. I think you'll be much happier, even if you don't believe it right now. I think you'll be much, much happier if you're actually moving towards your human potential and making the greatest use of all your resources and all your assets. That's what I believe. And I bet if you subscribed to that same belief, you'd probably be doing much better a year from now, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Who knows? It's just something that I believe in, and a lot of other people believe in, especially, all those words that I put in my head, all those authors of those incredible words, all those great, simple communicators, they believe in that same stuff too. And, when you're looking at successful people versus not successful people, you're going to find that there's patterns. And patterns, the whole concept of patterns, I pretty much married. And that is, if you do certain things, then you're inevitably not going to be very happy, and you're not going to move closer towards your potential. And then there's another set of patterns where if you do these certain things consistently, you're going to be in a place that's much more desirable, and you're going to be moving closer towards your own human potential, and you're going to be largely successful. It's a pretty cool thing. Patterns are awesome. I think success really is a science. You just have to get those patterns down and mimic those patterns, because successful people, they leave clues, and those clues, they are usually, the same type of deal. There's patterns. If you look at Napoleon Hill, his book, Think and Grow Rich. If you're not familiar with that book, he interviewed like 500 of the most successful, the wealthiest people in the world, and he found patterns between them all that they all subscribe to. And for example, the first thing was they all had desire for what it is that they did. They had an intense amount of desire, a real, true, innate joy and love for what they did. That was a common shared pattern between 500 of the most successful people in the world. So it's pretty clear that if you want to be successful, you've got to have desire, a real innate sense of joy, love, desire for what it is that you do. And I know a lot of you have jobs where you don't exactly feel that for your job. But if that's the case, then you're not following that pattern of successful people. I mean, come on, 500, and they all agreed on the same thing. The most important thing is to have desire for what you do. That's pretty telling. And then it goes on from there. There's other patterns too. And then there's patterns of, underachievers and people that just aren't successful, and people that are living in poverty. And here's one for you: procrastination. Procrastinators, that's a pattern that people who live in poverty follow. Procrastination is the cornerstone of all poverty. People that don't understand the consequences of inaction, people that need to be motivated every step of the way because they don't understand the consequences of inaction. Poverty is the cornerstone of all, inaction is the cornerstone of all poverty. So that's a pattern on the flip side of that fence of being successful. You got to plug into the right patterns, man, and then add your own flavor to it. And that's probably going to be the most important element in your own success. You can model the behavior of other successful people, but you got to have your own flavor and develop that, and you'll develop that through your own personal growth and development journey. Very cool stuff and important. So that's my story. And I plugged a lot of life lessons into my story, because my story, let's face it, is a collection of life lessons, what to do and versus what not to do. That was it. So happy 6-year anniversary to me. 6 years ago today is when I worked the last day of the last job that I ever had. I don't miss it. I can take trips now. I can do whatever it is that I want to do. I don't have anybody I've got to check in with. I don't have to check my bank account anymore because I've declared my own financial independence. So if I want to do something impromptu, it's all good. I can just go ahead and do it. And the business that I'm in is all online. So as long as I've got Wi-Fi with me, I can even work if I want to. And you know what? Because I have that desire for my work, the commonality between the 500 most successful people of the world desire, I actually love working. I love it. When I'm on trips, I don't want to be away from this and totally unplug. I just don't. It's an innate joy and desire that I have, and it's a pattern that follows, the same pattern as the 500 most successful people in the entire world. It's pretty friggin' sweet. Well, this is going to conclude my video. It's much longer than I had intended it to be. I hope that you're thinking differently, or at least starting to. And like I said in the beginning, it doesn't even matter to me if you're interested in what I'm doing or what somebody else is doing, or you've got your own thing. But if you're interested in what I'm doing, because I think it's a pretty darn good thing what I'm doing, then I want you to private message me on Facebook or send me an email, or get a hold of me. My Nerve Center website is tombirkenmeier.com. TOMBIRKEN as in Nancy, M as in Mary, EYER.com. tombirkenmeier.com. I got all my contact info there. You just need to take the initiative and reach out to me, and I'll tell you about what I'm doing. You can ask me some questions, I'll ask you some questions, and you decide if this is the vehicle for you or not. And if it's not, then do something. Just as long as you do something, this vehicle or another one, do something that takes you closer towards the things that you want and growing closer towards your own individual, unique human potential. That's important. It's important to me. Hopefully it's important to you. And on that note, I hope you have an awesome day and an awesome life. Make the most of it. Be significant in other people's lives. Serve others. And things will happen for you. It's a natural law of the earth. You give, you get. But you got to start the giving process first, and you'll get. And you'll get a whirlwind in return. It's a beautiful natural law. Take care, everyone. Bye.